Hello and welcome. My name is Ozioma Egwuonwu, and I am the founder of World Dream Day. Today, I have the pleasure of having a conversation with Nilima Bhat. She's a visionary, a facilitator, and coach in the fields of personal mastery, leadership, gender, equality, and well-being. She also is, I would say, a pioneer that's putting forth and inviting forth an awakening on an individual and collective level. And today, for the Dream Forward Thought Leaders series, her and I are going to be having an amazing conversation that's going to span the depths and the breadths of many topics. And so get ready. It's going to be a powerful session. Welcome, Nilima.
Hey, so good to be here with you, Ozioma. Thank you.
So great to have you here. So, what I wanted to do was to start off with a question that I ask many people when they come onto this platform, this Dream Forward platform. And that question is, what was the invitation that you were answering when you said yes to having this conversation with me today?
The invitation to a divine life in a divine body, human unity, and the next stage of our evolution as a species on this planet that I feel we are so needing, and that we may be finally ready to look into because of what COVID has done to us and the kind of awakening it is asking us to step into.
So powerful, this idea of the awakening that this moment is asking us to step into. What would you say is the invitation of our times at this moment?
I will draw from some of the work of Lynn Twist, and she herself refers to some others for this, but the sense that we are here to hospice the old and to midwife the new. I think we have reached the end of as far as we can go with the level of consciousness we have. And the results are all around for us to see, and the kind of pinnacle of that is COVID. So it's been kind of bottomed out. This is the rock bottom of it. And we are facing crisis on all fronts, most of which I would think is the ecological, environmental, climate one. But further into that, the gender lack of, harmony and the kind of pain and suffering and confusion in relationships that we're facing right now. I see so many marriages not able to survive the awakened woman. It's just an epidemic. And so, workplace with crazy burnout, crony capitalism, oligarchies, at home, depression and lack of meaning and purpose. And let me not even get started on the crisis of masculinity as well as the crisis of femininity and sexual abuse. And it's just, if we just open our eyes and look around, you're horrified at what it means to be human. The question is, do I want to be on this planet? What's the big deal? Even if I find success, is it really worth it? Look at the context in which I'm going to have my dreams met, so to speak, right? So there's a saying in Hindi, ye dunya agar mil bhi jaye to kya hai? Like, even if I get this whole world, what's the big deal? Right? So I think the great work of our time is to hospice this world that has kind of reached its diminishing returns. And we need to midwife the new world, the new earth, that we all know somewhere is possible, where we are not killing each other, where we are not abusing each other, where we are not coming from poverty consciousness and victimhood, where we have each stepped into our own power and discovered that the only win is a win-win-win. that we're only as good as we are together. None of us are okay until all of us are okay. So this is that new world that COVID, I think, has mirrored to us, saying, you could be something else. And do you want to start working towards that? Because you are innately that, and you could manifest that, if you choose to. It's a choice at this time. So that's the great work of our time.
Beautiful, beautiful articulation. So you spoke about the great work of our time, and that, this notion that with all the things that are going on, sometimes, it's easy to just say, well, what's the, not say what's the point, but do I even want all of this? How do I navigate my personal dreams in this larger context that is the reality? I would love to know from you, have you found that there are certain techniques, certain practices, certain ways of being and doing that support you in being able to still move forward in a way that that you are inspired despite the challenging contexts of our time?
Yes, good question. So, of course, there are many wonderful tools and techniques, and I teach something called the presence practice, and it's a way to step back from your ego, where you have something to defend or promote or fear, but you step back from that and you stand in your own flow, your own source, your own presence, and you affirm, all I need is within me, all I need comes to me, all I need flows through me. And best of all, you affirm, I am enough, I have enough, and there is enough for all we can share. So these are very carefully chosen affirmations, and you combine it with breath work and so on. I'm happy to share the link to the presence practice later, and people can try it out for themselves. So to move through this time, being as present as you can be is an imperative. Otherwise, we just be sucked into the chaos and the drama of what's the horror of what is around us. But two things that have helped me at this time, when I wake up and feel a little despairing and hopeless, I have a dear friend, Nitya Shanti, who used to be a Buddhist monk and teaches self-awareness, transformation. So he would say, everything is perfect and everything can be improved. Right? So they're co-holding these two realities, that everything is perfect, however crazy it seems right now. And this comes from so many spiritual teachings, the Sufi path and the Buddhist, all of it actually, to be able to unconditionally love and accept reality from all its beauty and beautiful faces all the way to its horrific faces, and to be able to see all of that as a higher divinity in evolution, a work in progress that is still working itself out. And we are part of that work in progress, right? And somehow all these, highs and lows, good and bad, somehow they're all playing their role in this great Leela, this great drama, right? Through which we are working out a yet another state of perfection, a more wider, deeper, fuller sense of joy, ananda, what it means to be a living experience and so on. So everything is perfect and everything can be improved. Gives me personally a framework in which I can choose to continue operating in this world, right? Otherwise it would be one big horror story. The other thing that I love is this concept that life is essentially meaningless, but you get to tell a story about it. Okay. So if you tell a high quality story, you'll have a high quality experience. If you tell a poor quality story of it, you will have a poor quality experience. So why not tell the highest possible story you can with the reality that is occurring around you? This is where I use my tools of what I call the mythopoetic lens. Don't look at life as if it's just a bunch of data and numbers and logic and facts, also bring in it's not just logos, it's also mythos, bring in your mythopoetic lens, look at it as if it were a mythic archetypal experience. It's symbolic, and what can you read from the symbol of what's going on? Where's the poetry in it? Where's the beauty in it? Find it like a pig searching for truffles. So that's how I cope with reality. I make myself look at it with a mythopoetic lens, and then suddenly you can live it. Not only can you cope with it and just kind of bear it, endure it, but hey, even better, you can turn it into an adventure. You can turn it into an adventure of consciousness itself, and suddenly you can give it meaning, and everything looks like it has a purpose, and it's here to move you to your highest possible joy and embodiment. And so that is how we can reframe the trauma and the crisis as an evolutionary impulse to become more beautiful, better versions of ourselves together.
Yes, I find that so powerful, especially the component around mythopoetic, right?
Yes.
The mythos and the poesis, right? The poetry and the myth and all of that together. And the way that once we realize and embrace that we don't have to have this very cookie cutter approach to living our lives, to advancing our goals and dreams, to being who we are. And we can start to suss out and identify what are those frames of being or doing, the ways in which we think about life itself, about each other, about our world, about ourselves. All of that, the way we think and feel, impacts the way we show up and the way in which we move forward. And so, because we are talking today around this frame of dreaming forward, dream forward, what would you tell the dreamers, those who have big ideas, goals, and dreams in their hearts, or maybe even smaller ones that might be afraid of moving forward? Or even if we took it to another level, what would you say to our world that may be on the precipice of creating another great evolutionary leap? What do we say to those who are ready to make the leap forward and embrace what I like to call the higher dream?
Mm. Well, I would say you need the courage and heart of a hero or a heroine. And I would say, fear not. Step both feet into the grand river of your dream and your life and say yes. And let it take you. Let spirit take you. Let your soul lift you. And which is why we are called to adventure. And we will never reach the other shore or the new world if we continue standing on this one, right? So what I'd say to people is, you've got to be willing to die in some way, because anything really worth having requires giving up something that is less than at this time for you, or that has served its purpose. It's your comfort zone, but you're not growing here anymore. So I would say, take a deep breath into your heart, fill it with courage, find all the love you can for yourself and the world and the dream. And like a mother would, or like a lover would, give yourself to it. Give yourself like a mother would to a child, or a lover would to a beloved, because that's the only way we are going to be able to claim our dream and manifest it. Like any child, it needs tending, it needs caring, it needs nurturing before it can come into its full blossoming. Like any love worth having, it needs our sacrifice, it needs our surrender, it needs our full giving of self.
So beautiful. You just started to spark and remind me of, within the world of the universe, the multiverse that is World Dream Day and Dreams to Action, we have this entire practice that's all about falling in love with your dream. Because many people see it as this external entity, as opposed to realizing that the dream actually inhabits itself within you. And the more that you can actually fully embody it, the more that things begin to change in terms of your relationship with it and your capacity to actually, support its manifestation. And so I want to ask you a question specifically about a dream that you've accomplished that many people along the journey of their life desire to accomplish. I too have accomplished this, which is to write a book. So tell me a little bit about what that was like for you, because everyone who writes a book, births a book is what I like to say. There's a different way in which they come to it and the way in which it comes through you. So I'm very interested in what was it like for you, and I know you have more than one book, but what was it like for you
Yes.
to really support and to activate the birth of Shakti leadership and the impact that it's made in the world in terms of really bringing forth a way of conceiving about leadership, about power, about collaboration, about connection. So tell us a little bit about the journey of creating the book, birthing the book, and then about the impact that you've seen it have in the world up to date.
Lovely question. And it's like a love story that I never get tired of telling. So much magic, so much synchronicity, and always a sign that when magic and synchronicity seems to be occurring, it's a sign that you are in the flow of something greater. And this has been the hallmark of Shakti leadership from the beginning. So I wrote my first book called My Cancer is Me, and it was based on a holistic and integrative approach to coming through cancer that I had developed in a clinical setting and through workshops that we were teaching after my husband got colon cancer in 2001 at the age of 40. So we had returned to India for him to recover his health. And in the process, all that we were learning on holistic and integrative medicine, we started putting it together into a very simple program that could be taught and scaled. So we wrote the book, My Cancer is Me, and the journey from illness to wholeness. And as soon as it was done, a very dear friend of mine, she was one of my students in my yoga class. And she said to me, Nilima, it's a fantastic book, but you still have to write your book. And I'm like, really? I still have another book in me? And slowly, I did realize that somewhere along the journey of trying to make sure my husband lived and survived and thrived and becoming a holistic health coach and cancer coach, etc., somewhere I had made the journey from being this happily inside the patriarchy kind of woman, mother, wife, and I had actually broken through, and I had discovered myself and come into my own. And that journey as a woman to come into her own power, her own Shakti, was a journey that I was seeing happening all around me at this, at that time, right after 2016, when the book was published. Trump got elected, and the women's marches began, and the Me Too movement, and somehow this book became part of the zeitgeist, and like just two steps ahead of the movement. So when people looking for light, guidance, this suddenly became a torchlight, a lighthouse, saying, hey, here is material that is recently out there and available for us. So anyway, so when I knew I had this other book to write, Shakti Leadership, and I first asked my husband, who would have been a wonderful partner to write the book, but because, we have learned all we have together. He said, no, I'm just booked out, so please, just give me a bit of a break for some time. So then I asked Raj Sisodia, and he was such a perfect co-author and partner, because being part of the conscious capitalism movement, having the four tenets of conscious leadership, conscious cultures, higher purpose, and stakeholder integration, with conscious leadership being the kind of the pivotal tenet around which the other three can also be developed. I said to him, we need to write a book or a model of leadership that works for both East and West, and of course, North and South. And more importantly, works for women and not just men and all genders, because most leadership models have been made by men for men and Western men at that, and militaristic models at that. Whereas we are at a time where, we are seeing the rise of feminine values and the need for feminine principles in leadership, collaboration, empathy, compassion, uh, communication. All these are the softer but no less stronger dimensions of leadership, which are considered the yin. So Raj, to his great credit, said, sure, I'll write this book with you. And the way things fell into place, talking about a few bits of magic, I wrote the book proposal and he wanted to send it to Barrett Kohler. He's always wanted a book published by Barrett Kohler because these are the kinds of books Barrett Kohler does. It's a very highly regarded publishing house. So I sent the manuscript, the little book proposal, and within half an hour, and it took me months to write that proposal. It's taken me years to come up with this model, which is simplicity on the other side of complexity. I've sent this with my, my heart in my hands, so to speak. And within half an hour, we got a reply from one of the editors saying, well, had a quick scan of what you sent. I don't see anything new here, but hey, let me just check with my co-editor if he will be, if he thinks differently. Now, I remember in that moment thinking, wait a minute, it took me 20 years of death and resurrection to get here. And this man took a few seconds without even reading this thing, and he's kind of dismissed it. I was a bit shell-shocked. And before I could get really angry, there was another email from the co-editor who says, hey, wait a minute. I know Nilima. I attended her breakout session at the Conscious Capitalism Conference in Boston 3 years ago. And I would be very, very keen to know what she has to say because I would like to follow her work. The minute I heard that, I used to live in India. I happened to have gone to Boston and happened to have done this one workshop among several. People could have attended many others. Of the 50 people in the room, Neil Bailett had attended my workshop and remembered me and therefore was going to pay attention to this book proposal, right? I had such a clear sign from the universe that, oh, this is going to happen after all, by some incredible magic. In those of you who have ever sent book proposals and got rejections, you know how many book proposals to how many publishers it takes before someone comes through. And this was like within half an hour, done. And as it went on, I had wanted to talk about Shakti, but Raj was saying, let's not bring these Indic concepts, let's stay with the more generic stuff. And my whole heart was about bringing the wisdom of India to the world. And Shakti is a civilizational elixir from India. And it was a gift to the world that the world really needs, true power and true creative power, and how to source that and how to do it in a way that takes everyone along. That is what Shakti can teach the world. So I had put it kind of hesitatingly in the chapter 4. So then Neil Bailett comes back and says, oh, by the way, we would have had an editorial meeting a month from now, but I sneaked in your proposal. And not only did they love it, but more than that, they want to know, what is this thing called Shakti? And can we put that into title of the book? Can we make the book about Shakti? So I still remember that call with Raj, Neil, and myself, and Raj saying, look at her face, because I was grinning from ear to ear, saying, here is Shakti herself who has decided that this book is going to happen, right? And I am merely an instrument. And so the rest, as they say, really is history. I mean, it just, the kind of wonderful support. A lovely lady out of the blue reaches out and says, I'm really looking for an internship. Can I give you 2 years of, the next can I give you 2 months that are coming up? And will you use me in some way as an intern? And this is when we needed someone to help us with the national book launch across many cities of the US. And here was Sarah. She comes on board and she just handled this entire thing so smoothly, so beautifully. It was a dream. It really, really was a dream. I think think the reason I'm telling you this story is when you step both feet into your dharma, into the river of your higher purpose, really the universe moves with you and through you and has your back. And it's almost like going down a lazy river where you don't have much to do. You're being taken by this incredible current of life itself. So that is the magical story of Shakti leadership. There is no pain in it. I have no memory of having struggled or having had to feel any kind of burnout. I have no memory of how and when the book got written. It was in this heightened state of joy and flow and ease and grace. And once it was out, it just got itself invited literally all over the world. Even now, I open my laptop every day. It's 5 years since the book came out, and there is an invitation to speak somewhere in the world, and it's now out in Hebrew, in Portuguese, in Russian. It's still doing its thing. It's literally like a baby. It has its own destiny, its own life. And I would say it's not even a baby. It's like my mother. It's like my great mother, and it's leading itself, and I'm just like the happy child going along.
I love that. And that's the way it is, right? With the dream, it's kind of like the vision, it may come and then suddenly it starts to flow and it has a life of its own. And it's always that dance of, are you listening? Are you allowing? Are you coming into greater connection and communion with what wants to be birthed into the world, especially when you're keeping, I find when you're keeping the intention pure, because I find so much resonance with what you've just shared and the way in which World Dream Day has also evolved, and just seeing it become something that is way beyond what I had thought it was or even could be. And it's truly now owned by the world, and it should be, because these concepts that we birth, if the intention is really about supporting the collective evolution and transformation of our world, then we can't hold it so tight. In fact, to try to hold it tight like a child is to kill it. And so we have to be able to open up and to embrace and to allow a greater unfoldment.
And what it does, it kind of challenges the old model of copyright and trademarking and licensing, and somewhere maybe it's my Eastern training, but I've never been comfortable with this whole legal way of suing each other for my copyright, my ideas, my intellectual property and stuff like that. It's like, how do you own anything that actually belongs to the world?
Exactly.
And yet, how do you do it in a way that honors whatever you contribute to it? So I'm sure there are ways to, it's as you say, how do we hold it lightly and not tightly? Exactly. The minute you hold it tightly, it's like holding water. It just squeezes out of your hand and it's gone. And it doesn't reach the people it's meant to reach. But if you know how to hold it lightly and honor everyone's contribution, including yours, and then negotiate a win-win-win, and trust that what you have given, you will get back, and actually manyfold, many times over.
I think, everything that you're speaking about definitely points to the role of stewardship, and being a responsible, loving steward, but then allowing for all of that to take place, And I think I've learned so much about leadership from this journey, which is now 10 years, and who knows what the next decade of World Dream Day will look like. But what I want to ask you, in addition to everything you've just shared, because I'm so grateful for what you've expressed, and I'm sure everyone who's listening to this is just like, oh, wow, inspiration just flowing, is, when it comes to connecting and kind of being able to collaborate, you spoke a bit about that collaboration with Raj, right? And about the other entry of the intern and the entry of the editor. What would you say that this journey has taught you a lot about collaboration? Because right now, collaboration, empathy, all those capacities, which you have already mentioned, is part and parcel of Shakti leadership, and is also part of the capacities that I'm always reading and speaking about. And, when it comes to like the next level of leadership, shared leadership, connecting on a different level, I would just love to hear you share the wisdom that you've gained along your journey as it relates to collaboration and how important it is for us to be able to enhance it so that we can support individual as well as collective evolution.
Yeah. This, in a way, is our next heroic journey. It's a call to adventure, which means that it's not going to be given to us on a platter. The whole the model of shared leadership and making it work is something humanity is going to have to figure out and learn. And anything worth having, you need to make a journey for. So we will begin with the grand idea of let's collaborate. Hey, wonderful. And then then the stuff comes up, right? Which is your shadow stuff comes up, your ego stuff, your insecurities, mine and thine, and did I get the credit I deserve? And someone else got more money, fame, whatever, right? So, or I'm doing too much and they're doing too little. All that stuff comes up, and we have to have a sufficient amount of maturity and self-worth in order to step into shared leadership. This is my experience, that if we haven't individuated sufficiently, then our shadow will come up and derail the process. So when you are gathering your teams for shared leadership, choose your teams carefully, choose your tribe carefully, and without any judgment, be aware that unless someone has sufficiently journeyed once or twice and faced down their fears and their ego and integrated their shadow to some extent, they will not be able to be part of a collaborative platform because they're still not ripened for that yet. So choose your tribe carefully and even put this out as the norms. We have to create some kind of norming. And so when the Shakti Fellowship and the faculty for the Shakti Fellowship came together so beautifully. We went on a Ganga Shakti tour, and these 12 women and a few good men from all over the world showed up. And then we went on this incredible pilgrimage into the heart of India, the wisdom of India, down the Ganges. And when it was over, they were all looking at me with this. I remember the last night on the bus, and it's like, hey, it was a week of such intense transformation. Where do we go from here? And then I said, it's been my dream to offer a 9-month Shakti Fellowship program where we go on a journey together and transform ourselves and each other, step in, step up, step out, create our game-changing projects in the world. And they all put their hands up and said, we're ready, we're going to be part of that. So they became my first cohort. And then many of them went on to become the faculty for my future cohorts, right? So I ended up being surrounded by or gathering such a beautiful group of women who had made the journey of facing down their fears and their own anxieties or insecurities. And we had shared language. We understood the Shakti model together. So now there's a sisterhood about this, right? Because we have had shared experience, we have shared language. And we have shared purpose because we are buying into the bigger idea. So if you can do this, shared experience, you go through some sort of a crucible experience together that creates a deeper bonding between each other and trust with each other. Shared language, where you have a common set of words and phrases and methods, and you're singing off the same song sheet, so to speak. And then shared higher purpose, that together you are citing a common higher purpose that you all are buying into. That is a big yes for each one of you. I think if you can get these 3 things, you have some sort of a ground for beginning. Otherwise, many of these things are going to derail very quickly. It's hard enough to take yourself to some place, but to go as a group, it's like the shadow gets multiplied many times.
Wow. I am just in deep, deep, deep awe and gratitude for what you just expressed, because shared experience, shared language, shared higher purpose. To me, if we actually thought deeply about that and really got that clear, at the outset and also along the journey, like being mindful of it at the beginning and designing, right, these collaborative in engagements in a way, and also just any group being mindful of it. How are we speaking with one another? What is that shared opportunity for these experiences? What is the higher purpose that we are really, really, really aligning around and kind of holding up and also using as the foundation? All of this is so important. And so I am just very excited about that. Mm-hmm.
In the shared language, we put in things like the Shakti vows. It's like a pledge we take for ourselves and each other. And it's about norming, so shared norms that we all buy into and sign up for these agreements, right? So it's, if you just leave it and trust that, oh, it's all wonderful, it'll all emerge. No, there's chaos. You need, like a river needs banks, Shakti needs Shiva, who's going to contain the flow of the creative energy. And so norms and agreements collectively created are so important, because then you have what you're walking to, the drum you're beating to, so to speak. It keeps you on track, it keeps you focused. And one word that I have kind of built is said, I call it the MWE, MWE. So it's not just about the we, because the truth is, if we don't take the integrity of the me along, then you can get lost in the we. And so I look at it like a painting, like a mandala, it's made with these pristine colors, each one like a jewel. And every color is one of us that is holding its integrity and its beauty. And the whole, that sand art gets created only when each color holds its space, right? The minute you mess it all up, you get a dirty, dull brown color where all the mud color, the sand colors have got mixed, and you lost the me in the we, right? So the beauty of the co-creation can only take place if the me retains its integrity. That unique gift that each one of us is seen, is honored, is recognized, is allowed to be in its space and to shine in its space, right? And then be part of a larger context, right? So it's the we. Don't lose track of that. If you're only me, everyone is on self agenda. But if you're only we, you will lose your individuated gifts, and that can lead to its own confusion.
I love that frame. So many wonderful gems that you've given us today, Nilima. So tell us how we can obviously get in touch with you. Like, how would you like those who are listening right now to be able to further engage and to learn more about your work?
So just look up shaktileadership.com, and everything happens on that website, whether it is Shakti coaching, which is the next thing we are going to offer, Shakti coach training. The Shakti Fellowship is going to show up in new avatars soon. We have a Udemy course to get certified in Shakti leadership. We have lots of stuff coming up. The Truth and Reconciliation movement and the Rise in Love Together campaign. These are some of the things we do that take Shakti work into a broader context. So you'll find it all, and be on the website. The social media handles are also there. But yes, just look up shaktileadership.com.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Nilima. This has just been a wonderful, wonderful conversation.
Absolutely, Ozioma. And what grace and stillness with which you hold it. So thank you.
You're most welcome.